Okay, so this question says, there were several roses and tulips in the garden. After 15 roses were picked, there are 2 tulips for every remaining rose. After 25 tulips were picked, there are 3 roses for every remaining tulip. How many flowers were there in the garden originally? Okay, to do this problem, I'm going to highlight all the important things. We don't need there are several roses and several tulips. Just highlight the first sentence red. I'll make it like a dark red color so we can see the text easier. Second sentence will be blue. Oh, I accidentally highlighted the second sentence and also made that red. It's so small. I'll make it blue. A dark blue should work. Okay, now I'm going to insert in a table. There we go. Here we have our table. I'm also going to highlight it so we can make it better. Two borders, no border. And there we go. After 15 roses were picked, there are 2 tulips for every remaining rose. I'm just going to take this and I'll make it red. Oh, we also need a border for this. Make it like this big. Borders. Oh, there we go. Lovely. And now, tulips. I'll make it a nice light blue color. Oh, there we go. Now the reason I did that was because it says after 15 roses were picked, there are 2 tulips for every remaining rose. This red rectangle represents the number of roses, and these 2 blue rectangles represent the number of tulips. Now it says for every rose there are 2 tulips. So for the number of roses, there's 1 rectangle, and for the number of tulips, I did 2 rectangles. Alright, but this is after 15 roses were picked, so I'm going to do a plus 15 here. I also need to do this just to make sure my writing will be good later on. I'm also going to need to highlight this 15 in order to make it like I want it. Like that. I also need to do that to this plus sign because it says how many flowers were there in the garden originally. So it's the number of roses plus the number of tulips. Here, yep, there we go. There we go. So we have that down. Now I will write number of roses of this. Don't you need to write something here? Right here, I'll write number of tulips. And there's another thing that I want to do. I want to highlight this red because it represents the roses that were picked. And I'll make it red for roses. Alright, we did that. I'm going to name this the first scenario. We don't need I'll just write first scenario. Here we go. Perfect. I'll also highlight this, not really highlight, I'll just color it red to match the red part of the sentence, which we're working on right now. Alright, so we did that. We did the part that says after 15 roses were picked, there are 2 tulips for every remaining rose. We have 1 red rectangle, 2 blue ones, and the plus 15 for those 15 roses that were picked. Now I'll highlight this table because we're going to need another one for the second scenario. Okay, this happens. I'll just push this down. But now we can't see the question, so I'll just copy the question too. I don't think we need that much space. So let's put here, this, there we go. We'll also name this the second scenario. And I'll highlight it blue to match the blue part of the question that we will be making this for. There we go. So now we have this. It says, after 25 tulips were picked, there are 3 roses for every remaining tulip. Okay, so no roses were picked, so we cannot change the number of roses. But since the tulips were picked, we have to make this the 3 roses for every remaining tulip. And to do that, I will show you. Now, if we take this, if we take this and divide it into 3 parts, well, I tried to make my lines even. If they're not, I intend them to be. Now, if we have that and get rid of these 2 pieces, that's not the right thing. This. There we go. If we have this and we divide it, doesn't one of these, if we have one, they're not really squares, they're rectangles, smaller rectangles. So what this rectangle is made out of 3 smaller rectangles. So for every tulip, there are 3 roses. Now I will do it manually. Oh, actually, I need to clear that. Right. Take that, flip into 3 pieces, and voila. There we go. Now we split them into 3 pieces. We need to do that with all of them. Go. And the roses too. Perfect. Now there's only one of these left because it's for there are 3 roses for every remaining tulip. And that I will make these a different color. I'll make them a very light blue. So these are gone, these were picked. And now there is 3 roses for every remaining tulip. The number of roses and the number of tulips. Now it says, the question says, how many flowers were there in the garden originally? To get that answer, we need to find out how many flowers there were, how many flowers each smaller rectangle represents. As I said before, these aren't really squares. All right, so this is after 25 tulips were picked. So these 5 rectangles here, smaller rectangles, have to represent those 25 flowers that were picked. And for that, we divide that 25 by 5. Then we will get what each smaller rectangle, like how many flowers each smaller rectangle represents. That was a mouthful. Right, 25 divided by 5 is 5. So each smaller rectangle represents 5 tulips. Well, 5 flowers, of course. Whoop. I'll just put 5 here. That's not a 5, is it? So every smaller rectangle represents 5. And I don't like it like this, so I'm going to go over here and center them. Perfect. I also highlighted the plus sign because that won't do anything because it's already centered. All right, so we did that. There are 3 smaller rectangles. Each one represents 5 roses. 5 plus 5 plus 5 is 15. But hold on, what about those other 15 roses that were picked? It says how many flowers were in there originally. So we actually have to add that 15 too, right? 15 also. There's no 2. Right? So 15 plus 15 is 30. So number of roses equals 30. Right? And tulips. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes of 5. All right, 6 times 5 is 30. Is it? Yeah, actually it is. Well, that's interesting. Number of roses and number of tulips is the same. But we'll find out if our answer is correct when we check our work. 30. Well, at least we think it's 30. Who knows? Maybe we're wrong. But I guess we'll find out. All right. And the question asked how many roses, no, not how many roses, how many flowers were there in the garden originally. That's why I'll write number of flowers equals 60, because 30 plus 30 is 60. Oop, that did not come out right. There we go. Also put a period at the end of every sentence. And I guess I'll change the font to match the one for the question. There we go. So we did that. Now I think we should check our answer. I'll take this, go all the way up here, move the table down so we can't see it while we check our work. Here, and put that back down here. Oh, what did I do? Right, move it here. All right. Okay. So I will copy this down. Whoop. All right, that's in a good place here. There we go. We have that. I'll make it red to match the part of the question we're checking. Because right now we're going to check if each statement is actually true. So it says, after 15 roses were picked, there are 2 tulips for every remaining rose. 30 minus 15 is 15. All right. Now it says there are 2 tulips for every remaining rose. Well, 30 divided by 2 is actually 15, and 15 times 2 is 30. So we know that there are actually 2 tulips for every remaining rose. Now, I'll actually copy this sentence because this question, flowers are actually being picked. So the numbers are changing. I actually need to copy the part of the question. We checked this part. Okay, now it says after 25 tulips were picked, there are 3 roses for every remaining tulip. Right? So 30 minus 25 is 5. Now, we could see here that 5 times 3 is 15, and there are 3 roses for every remaining tulip. So we know that the statement is true. After 25 tulips are picked, there are 3 roses for every remaining tulip. We checked both parts of the sentence, therefore we know our answer is correct. Answer 60, because the question asked, how many flowers were there in the garden originally? So 60 is the right answer.